Welcome to Clarity and Purpose. Our world is full of people who are overworked and overwhelmed. They lose focus on what matters, struggle to find a vision for the future, and lose time with those they love. We help businesses and their teams clearly understand their purpose and help them communicate more effectively. I'm your host, James Thorne. I'm joined by my co-host, Jake Jordan. Hey, Jake.
What up, James?
Hey, man. Okay, I got a question for you. You might have to think about it for a second.
Okay.
But I want you to think about one or two times in your life that you felt most alive.
Ooh,
Most alive. Can you describe one or two of those?
wow. Like you're talking about that Titanic moment out in front of the boat? You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I'm not the one holding you, but the idea when you felt most alive.
probably one that comes to mind was went on a trip to Brazil for some church work, and just sitting on the front porch of one of those Brazilians' homes, drinking their Brazilian coffee, sharing just life in the morning, watching the sunrise, just that relational, like, just felt so like I was soaking up life,
Yeah,
like it's just so cool. So that's definitely one for sure.
cool.
Work wise, whenever we connect with a really, really cool client that we just gel with, and you're doing work, and you see something like it works, like all of a sudden the things we've been doing just pop, and the things happen,
Yeah,
that feels really alive too. Like we're doing something meaningful.
cool. So something that we wouldn't be able to probably figure out right this moment, but the idea is that based off of those life experiences, Jake, that should probably determine maybe what your purpose is.
Mm,
And maybe there's an underlining piece of those things that connect if you've thought of a few more that really
yeah.
define your purpose. So we're going to learn about that today in our interview.
Cool.
This has actually been one of my favorites. We had so much fun bringing on this guest, but we'll just jump right in and introduce the guest like we normally do. She is a life coach, if we're to put it into two words, but has impacted hundreds of thousands of lives through her teachings, books, publishing courses, speaking events, podcast, and coaching. She is busy, but she knows who she is, what she's called to do, and confident in who she is in God to be put here on this earth and encourage all of us. I'm proud to introduce Nika Maples. All right. Hey, Nika. How's it going?
I am so good. How are you, James?
Good. I've been looking forward to this interview all week.
Me too.
Good.
Me too.
You didn't have to just say that. But I do want everyone to know, because I love saying it, I got to spend every day during the week, Monday through Friday, with Nika for a whole semester, with her encouraging me, coaching me, teaching me as my English teacher.
High school English. And you know what? Everyone needs to know that James was a responsible 16-year-old. He was a wonderful sophomore who represented his parents well in the world.
I appreciate that. I didn't make many friends with that season, but but we have stayed connected over the years through multiple things, and your life has dramatically changed from being a high school teacher. And you've been writing books, and I've read the Hunting Hope and the 12 Clean Pages. My wife's in your membership for the Keep Going, doing the group stuff now.
Yes.
So tell me, with everything going on, what's some of the main things you're working on right now?
Well, I consider myself to be a life coach. That's the easiest thing to describe it right now, because it's a term that most people understand. Is life coaching, and I incorporate that all in many, many different ways, through my writing, through my public speaking, which I've always had those two avenues, and then I've started teaching through courses, online courses, through mentoring membership for women who want a godly mindset, a healthy mindset for their home, their finances, their relationships, their career. And so right now, a lot of what I do is online, but I still have connections with people through my public speaking and through one-on-one clients.
We can jump right into, because our show is called Clarity and Purpose. And what I love about what you're doing is, because I've gained even more purpose for where I'm at by reading your books. And Ashley, my wife, is seeing that in the groups and the studies with your Keep Going, which the group thing's kind of new, right? The Keep Going.
Yes. Started this summer.
And you want to explain
Because
what
I
that is so
realized
people
that
know?
there was a way to take what I do and make it possible online. That's why it started this summer, because a lot of what I was doing as far as speaking on stages or working with consulting in small groups had to shift as a result of COVID. And so I thought, but there are still ways for me to do what I love to do and translate it into an online platform. And that's what I've done.
That's awesome. So I want you to think back in your life through a story that you've had to either regain purpose or figure out purpose for yourself, that you can share, because I know you have some incredible stories, and I'm always blown away. Even the small ones. Like, I was on a couple weeks ago with a live video talking about Legos, and I'm just like, you just have the crazy. I would call you the Bob Goff of someone, but just not the one that's going to jump out of a plane. But you're the
You
female
can
Bob
take that.
Goff that
I
gets.
just want to leave a few things for Bob to do.
Yeah,
So
let
I'm
him
going to
jump out of
leave
the
him.
plane. You'll just keep interacting with people.
So, I think one thing that really hinders people when they're looking toward their purpose is connecting their purpose to a specific achievement. That would be, I believe, a mistake. I have done that over the years, is connecting my purpose to a specific achievement or a specific avenue of just a specific avenue. So
Yeah.
when I started college, I was convinced, absolutely convinced, that I needed to be a broadcast journalist. I studied mass, and I went back and forth thinking that I needed to be a print journalist or a broadcast journalist. I ended up declaring broadcast journalism and got my bachelor's degree in mass communications. And then I had a massive stroke that left me quadriplegic. Well, how are you going to be a broadcast journalist if you can't talk? I could not talk. So my purpose at 20 years old was connected to an avenue or an achievement, both in a way, because I thought the avenue was broadcast journalism. So when something happens in your life that makes that temporarily or permanently impossible, then you've lost your purpose. If your purpose was connected to that particular avenue, broadcast journalism became impossible. So then, I shift. My doctors told me, you can't work with such deadlines. If you've had a stroke, you need to not have a career that is deadline oriented. I shifted and became a public school teacher, and that's where we met. Well, then I had my purpose connected to an achievement, because I wanted to write. I wanted to be an English teacher, but also to write a book. So everything I did, even while I was teaching, was thinking, how can I leverage these things that I'm teaching young people, that I can see it making a difference in their lives? How can I leverage that into writing a book? And I connected my purpose to writing a book. And then I wrote one in 2011. It was published, and I crashed, because that is what will happen if you connect your purpose to an achievement. The avenue can be stopped by a circumstance in your life, and the achievement leads to a total crash. Once you've done it, then what? Because I had a whole lot of life left to live, but I had written my book at 37, so I had accomplished it. And I thought, well, I can't explain it, but there's an internal crash that happens of like, well, now what if that was my purpose? So I was on my face, through feeling absolute depression, with feeling at a loss. I would spend a lot of time just crying on the floor. I'm not kidding. And maybe some people can't relate to it, but I know that there's some people who can relate to that crash that happens in your life, where you're just like, what do I do? What happens next? And at that time, it felt like everything was in chaos. My home was in chaos. My health was, what I mean by that is, it was always messy. Like, I never wanted to have people over because my home was always looked disheveled. It wasn't inviting. I had laundry I wasn't putting away. My health was going downhill because I was gaining weight. I was eating all the time, didn't fit into half the clothes in my closet. My finances were in shambles. I didn't have a savings that was anything to speak of. I was in debt. My relationships were going downhill because when you're that focused on a sense of failure, you can't relate to people well. You don't even have healthy conversations. And then lastly, my skill, meaning my career, was just tanking because I wasn't focused on another book. I had finished the first one. So I would say that I had those moments of chaos, and I prayed and prayed and prayed, a lot of days of praying. And then finally I felt the Lord speak directly to my heart. You are the leader of 5 cities and you aren't leading a single one of them. I thought, give me a city. I want to rule a city. And then I heard him speak to my heart. The cities that I've given you to rule are your home, your health, your finance, your relationships, and your skill. And in that moment, it was clarity, James. It was clarity because I realized he's given the same exact 5 cities to every single person on the earth. He gives us territory. It's our home. No one can tell us what to do in our homes. It's our health, mental, emotional, and physical, our health. No one can take care of that the way we can. Our finances, our relationships, and our skill. Those are the areas of our territory. And I realized that my purpose was not connected to one particular avenue. It wasn't connected to one particular achievement. It was about ruling and managing and taking care of what God had given me. That was part of my purpose. And I thought, okay, I want to really study about how I can do that well. And I realized the way for anyone to manage what God's given them well is to operate in their spiritual gifts. So I started really looking into the spiritual gifts, and God says that he gives some people a gift of leadership, and some people a gift of mercy, and some people a gift of teaching, and some people a gift of giving. And there's just some specialties. He creates people with some specialties. It's fabulous that we all are not the same, that we have these specialties. And I realized that my specialty, my spiritual gift, is exhortation. It's encouraging people to take action. That's the difference between just straight encouragement and exhortation. Encouragement makes you feel better. Exhortation makes you get moving. So I'm an exhorter. So my purpose is to encourage people to take action, to get moving. And when I realized that, then I realized I have clarity. Finally, I know my purpose. The clarity is I encourage people to get moving no matter what avenue, no matter what job, no matter what accomplishment. Everything I do, it comes through the lens of how can I encourage someone to take action? So that would be my story of like the moment when I had to face the chaos first.
Yeah.
And ask God for help me understand why I'm failing in every single area. And when he showed me, your purpose is to take care of these areas through a specific lens. And that was, for me, exhortation, encouraging people to take action.
That's awesome. So
I do want to add, you introduced me by saying my life is dramatically different from the time over the years. And now I'm realizing it's not. Because when I was a high school teacher, I was exhorting every single day.
Yeah.
I was motivating students to take action. I was encouraging them to take action every day. And that's when I felt alive as a teacher. When I was writing books, mostly, I was exhorting. I was operating in my purpose, and I just never realized it. So now, anything else I do through my online coaching, through my one-on-one coaching, when I speak from a stage, I'm exhorting.
I love that because I think through the lens of even why I said it and why other people would view it is because what you're doing is so different. Like what you're doing is so different. So like, oh, dramatically it's changed. You're doing all these different things. But really at the core, if people were to think about what the foundation or the piece that was driving all of those things. Um, that's what I love about it. Because, like, yes, you're right. That never changed.
Right.
And
And
now you
that
put it that way, yeah,
it highlights the importance of someone finding their purpose.
right.
Because once they find it, it doesn't matter so much what you're doing as long as you know why you're doing it. That clarity is everything.
So why do you think then it's so hard for people to find it? Like, why is that so hard?
Well, I think that I've thought about this a lot because through my writing course, I see a lot of new writers come in and this is their point of breakthrough with me. They'll be totally confused or stuck, and their point of breakthrough comes back to the same thing every time. So I think the reason people can't find their purpose is because they're looking to other people to explain it to them or to approve it, and they're looking to the wrong people. So I see a lot of my writers when they're writing a book, they're very concerned about, I want my boss to think this book is good. I want my spouse to think this book is good. I want my ex-spouse to think this book is good. I want my best friends to think, I want my friends from high school that hate me to think this book is good. And they start focusing on all of these people that are not the people that they're called to serve. So I say, now hold on a second. Who are you writing this book for? So sometimes I'll have, for instance, I had one new writer who is writing a book about caretaking for people who have Alzheimer's and dementia. And she's writing about caretaking, but she was so worried about what her friends would think. They don't have Alzheimer's and dementia. They are also not caring for people who do. So they're not her audience. She's worried about what her husband thinks. She's worried about what all these other people think that are not the people she's serving. So when I said, take your eyes off of those people, because it doesn't matter what they think, they're not reading your book. Turn to the people you want to serve. Focus on the people you're serving. Those are your readers, the people who need your message. And then all of a sudden, the focus of her book became clear. And I think so what people do, even when they're creating a business, they're worried, oh, I think people are going to think I'm charging too much. Or I think people are going to think that this is not needed in the marketplace. Or I'm just worried that people are, and they're focusing on these side people who are their personal friends and family. But they may not be called to serve their personal friends and family. And they're called to, I mean, they are ultimately, I guess, on a personal level, they're serving their
Sure.
friends. We all are. But I'm talking about with business,
Right.
they're specifically supposed to focus on, it doesn't matter what your mom thinks about your business. You're not serving her. You're serving this particular client or group, and you will get clear on your purpose when you focus on them. What do they need? What will benefit them today? So I think every day about the people who need to hear encouragement to take action. It's not necessarily my brother. It's not necessarily my best friend. It's not necessary. So it doesn't matter if they think my Instagram post is stupid. It wasn't for them.
Right.
It was for the people I'm trying to serve. So I would say that's why it's hard for people to get clear on their purpose, is because they're so worried about what others think of them and not what the right people think of them. You can love and care about all of the people who are important to you personally, but as far as your business, focus on the people you're called to serve.
So is that one of the reasons why the title is Keep Going?
I One of my favorite verses in the Bible is Galatians 6:9. It says, "Don't become weary in doing good, because at the right time you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up." And I see too often people give up.
Yeah.
right before a breakthrough. And there's scientific data that is fascinating to me. Maybe you've heard, or any of your listeners have heard of what's called the marshmallow test. There's a book by the same name, The Marshmallow Test, written by Walter Mischel, who did this fantastic psychological test in the 1960s at Stanford University, where he had 4-year-olds come into this surprise room, he called it. And on the table, he put one marshmallow on a plate right in front of them. And then just out of reach, 2 marshmallows on a plate. And the researchers told the little 4-year-old sitting in the room by himself, they said, here's a bell. And if you want me, I'm going to leave the room right now. And if you want to eat this one marshmallow, all you have to do is ring the bell. I'll come back and say, you can eat the marshmallow. But if you're willing to wait, then don't ring the bell. And if you let me come back by myself, I'll give you 2 marshmallows. And what they didn't tell the kid was it's going to be 20 minutes. And for a 4-year-old to wait 20 minutes, that might as well be 16 years. So if you think about your own kids, and if they had to wait 20 minutes with a marshmallow in front of them.
Oh man.
What?
They would be gone, and they'd blame the other brother.
I know. Well, what the results of that test were, they followed the kids who had eaten the one marshmallow, and the kids who had waited 20 minutes and employed their best strategies to wait so that they could get the 2 marshmallows. And years later, in their 20s and 30s, those kids became adults who had higher paying jobs, better health. They weren't addicted to anything, not alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, nothing. They had wonderful relationships, and it all had to do with their ability to delay gratification. And it started when they were very young. Well, what we've learned is that you can create scenarios where you apply delayed gratification. It's not inborn. You can choose delayed gratification. So to any of your listeners, I would say my message of keep going is connected to delayed gratification. We see that the person who is willing to wait for 2 marshmallows instead of eating right what's in front of them does better in life. They have a more fulfilling life. It's not about marshmallows. It's about waiting for what's better for you. And what I think about is the number of kids who probably waited till the 18th minute, and then they rang the bell and ate the 1 marshmallow. And if only they had known, oh man, all you had was 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
You should have kept going. All you had was 2 more minutes. And for the person who's about to give up on their business, I would say, you probably only have 2 more minutes. I mean, and translate that however you want. 2 more months of effort, 2 more
meetings, 2 more
meetings, 2 more strategic moves, 2 more whatever. You're probably just 2 away. Don't give up. Delay your gratification, because there's something that's gratifying about saying I give up. And it's saying, well, I couldn't have done it anyway. So you prove yourself right. Instead, why don't you prove yourself? Start thinking the kind of thoughts that would prove yourself right, and you'd be glad that you proved yourself right. The reason quitting is gratifying, like I said, it's because you want to prove yourself. I knew it wouldn't work all along, and you proved yourself right. Mm-hmm. Instead, wait a little longer for the bonus of whatever is ahead for those who wait, and those who delay gratification, and those who are willing to keep going. Because at the right time, you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up. The thing is, most people give up.
Yeah.
Hey, let's take a quick break from our interview and talk about something a lot of people are going through right now. There are a lot of people that hit a major slowdown during the COVID crisis. Many of our clients came to us and said sales are down, and we're looking to have to lay people off, possibly sell buildings or other assets. Is there anything we can do to get momentum back in the business? The good news is, the items are actually helping our clients, and we wanted to help other people with the advice that we gave them. So we built a guide you can download for free called Grow Again. What you do in your business when you get hit by the unexpected. We want you, the audience, to have it too. It contains 7 videos that explain the strategies we shared with our clients. It has 4 screen shares that show you exactly how we apply the techniques to our business, and it has 4 worksheets and scripts that you can literally pick up today and use yourself. So go to quirkgrowth.com/grow again and download your copy today. All right, let's get back to the interview.
What's one thing that you can encourage and do what you do best right now to all of us in discovering what our purpose is?
I would say step 1, sit in a different chair in your home. You probably sit in the same 2 chairs all day. I mean, like anytime you're
Pretty
happy, you sit
accurate.
in the same 2 chairs. So that means that you have the same perspective on your house every single time you're there. We get in a rut. Well, that physical rut contributes to a mental rut. So I would say step 1, pick a spot in your house. You're like, oh, that chair's been sitting there for years. I've never actually sat in it. So sit in a different chair. And while you're in that chair, you have like a spiral notebook, doesn't have to be fancy, marble notebook, composition book, and just set a timer for 15 minutes and jot down the things you can remember in your life that made you feel so alive. So you're sitting in a new chair, you've got a timer set for 15 minutes, and you're jotting down, you're actually writing about different things that made you feel alive. And you can bullet them. They don't have to be fully described, just bullet lists. That time I did this, that time I did this. And there's an action that happens that connects the pen. When you have your pen moving, it's like it activates your brain in a new way. So don't just sit in your chair and think about this. Actually write it, but you can write bullets. And then you set your timer for another 15 minutes. Put the pen down and just look at it. And I would pray and say, Lord, what do all these things have in common? If I felt alive, I'm going to trust I felt alive because my purpose was in operation at that moment. So what do all these things have in common? It's when I looked at teaching high school, speaking from a stage, one-on-one client work, writing books, all the different things I did, even when I serve in my church, all the different things that I would write down, I'd say, hold on, those all look a lot different, but at their core, they all have exhortation. I believe that if you think a while and ask for God's help, and you look over that list and be like, what do all these things have in common? On the surface, they may look like completely different actions, but if you felt great in those moments, there's probably something in common through all of them. And I think that is a secret that can be revealed to you about finding your purpose.
I love that. And in a way, that's one of the exercises we use when we talk about purpose.
Oh,
And
good.
we do a purpose positioning and message exercise, but the purpose part is a mix of Simon Sinek's Find Your Why and some other exercises. But yeah, it's what are those things that you're most alive, the memories that you have that you love, and why do you love them, and what so I love that, and I think that's a great exercise. I haven't thought about sitting in a different chair, so I've got a few that I've never sat in. I'm gonna go
And when you sit there,
a
it's
little thing.
crazy that you're
Yeah.
like, my whole living room looks different from this angle. Like, and then you're like, the people who come over as guests, they've been sitting in that chair.
Right.
So they have seen your life from a different angle all
That's
the
awesome.
time.
That is
It's
so
kind
awesome.
of like, you know, when you look at yourself in a mirror and you realize this is the way I see my face all the time, but
Yeah.
other people are seeing it in reverse.
Yeah.
If you ever are, I don't know, if sometimes when you stand behind somebody who's looking in a mirror, you're like, oh, weird, that's the way you see your face. It's like I experience you differently, you know?
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
kind of sitting in a different chair is experiencing your own life differently, which is the perspective you have to have to write down these things and evaluate them.
Man, that that was awesome. Thank you so much for just giving your time, but being able to dive in like that. And I think purpose is one of the things that people wake up and want to know what that is. And I think it's great. So if you want to know more about Nika Maples, where she's at, what she's doing, you can go to nikamaples.com. There's also the
That's it.
Keep Going Co. or
That's it. You know what, James? I realized you'll probably appreciate this. I had too many websites. And so your listeners need to know. Sometimes you can narrow it down. I had too many websites, and I'm like, hey, you know what? nikamaples.com.
That's it.
That's where you go.
That's
Everything's there.
It is. Everything is there.
Yes.
And even some of the things she shared before with some of the stories that we didn't really even dive into are in the books that she's written. And it's incredible. So definitely check her out. Definitely buy a book and connect with her. So Nika, the way we always close this out is with a little dance. So you ready?
Before we do, can I just say something, James?
Yes.
I give you an A+. You, as my student, you get an A+.
Oh man, I never got it there, so I'll take it now.
Okay, let's dance.
Let's do this. Okay, turn this up. She can't even do it. She can't do it. Nika.
Do that growl. That's greatness.
Oh man.
See, so like when you're aligned
Oh.
well with the things that you do, it's easy to have fun and enjoy going to work a lot of times, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can tell Nika loves her life. And she's had a lot of things happen in her life, but she loves her life. But man, when I think about her story, I mean, the main piece at the beginning there where she's talking about all those things that happened in her life, but then achievements and jobs that she was trying to get, she was determined that to be her purpose. And I think a lot of people will do that, right? The job that they're in is defining their purpose, or that next big thing they want to do is defining their purpose, when really there's an underlining piece that drives all of those things. And I think once we figure those things out, which I realized even in our own business, most people don't have that figured out.
They don't.
Man, it is mind blowing. And it's interesting even for me, because it's not like I always had it figured out, but I've always had a drive and knowing things I've wanted to do and just loved my life, but I haven't really always found that main thing. So it's awesome that we're doing that even for our own team. We're going, even individually and walking through discovering each person's purpose. And then, of course, for the company, but it's just powerful. So,
yeah, totally. So, I mean, that's also why we love what we do so much, because, we take people that have purpose, that are in an organization that are already doing great things, and help them align that in a way that when they get to work, they go, this is why we're here. And this is why this is so important. We have this big mission. And it comes through so well in your messaging and the things that you put out to your customers when you can tell when a company really believes in and talks to the things that they're about. You can just see it. You can see it in the companies. You can see it in Southwest Airlines. You can see it in Apple. You can see it in those places. So it's fantastic, and that's really what we're about when we love doing. So
absolutely.
James, what do we say about business leaders?
Well, when you align your team with your message, you become unstoppable.
That's right. Let's go.